Welcome to Savitha University Lecturecast in Anatomy. We're going to learn about the maxillary bone, the body of the maxilla. The maxilla is a pneumatic irregular bone which forms the upper jaw. It has got two parts, a body and four processes. The body consists of an apex, a base or the medial surface, and anterior surface, posterior surface, and superior surface. Hence, it resembles a three-sided pyramid. The processes are frontal process, the zygomatic process, the alveolar process, and the palatine process. Coming to the body, the apex is directed laterally and upwards. It's articulated with the zygomatic bone and it has the zygomatic process of the maxilla. Moving on to the anterior surface. The anterior surface has got the following parts. It's dominated by the intraorbital foramen, which transmits the intraorbital nerves and vessels. Just above the intraorbital foramen and the intraorbital margin, we have the origin of the muscle levator labii superioris. Below, we can find the canine fossa. More medial to it, we have the canine eminence, and more medial to the canine eminence, we have the incisive fossa. The other features seen in the anterior surface is marked by the nasal notch, which forms the lateral and inferior boundary of the anterior nasal aperture, and below we have the anterior nasal spine. Moving on to the posterior surface. The posterior surface is smooth and it's marked in the middle by the canals for the posterior superior alveolar artery, which are branches from the maxillary artery. Medial to it, we have the part which take parts in forming the pterygopalatine fossa. Below this, we have the maxillary tuberosity, which gives to origin of medial pterygoid muscle. Moving on to the superior surface. The superior surface, it's triangular in shape. It forms the floor of the orbit. In the medial side, we have the origin of the inferior oblique muscle, and it's marked by the inferior orbital groove and canal. The inferior orbital groove and canal will transmit the inferior orbital nerves and vessels. The borders, it has got three borders, the superior surface. We have the anterior or the intraorbital border. The medial border, which is straight, is marked by the lacrimal notch in front. Behind, it articulates from front to back with the three bones, the lacrimal bone, the ethmoid, and the palatine. The posterior border is otherwise called intraorbital fissure, as it forms the inferior boundary for this fissure. Moving on to the medial surface or the nasal surface, these are the following features we can find in the medial surface. We can see the nasolacrimal groove, which has the nasolacrimal duct. We have the atrium of the middle meatus. Below this, we have the conical crest. The conical crest articulates the inferior meatus, inferior concha, and the inferior meatus can be seen. And below it, it is marked by the maxillary hiatus, which is the opening of the maxillary sinus. The maxillary hiatus is very large, but in an intact skull, size of the maxillary hiatus is reduced, which is marked by the blue ring. The bones which reduces the size of the maxillary hiatus, or superiorly it will be the lacrimal and the ethmoid bone. From behind, posteriorly it is your palatine bone, and from below it's your inferior nasal concha. These are the various features seen in the body of the maxilla. Thank you.